we all have a choice, right? We all have a choice to continue forward and to push forward and to strive for what it is that we want and our dreams and our goals, or we have a choice to stay stuck, stay stagnant, complain, and blame everyone else but us. You know what it is, girl.
Think less, create more. What up, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of the Pretty Girl Progression Podcast. I am your girl, Sherelle. If you are new here, welcome. I hope you stay. And if you have been here before, girl, welcome back. And as always, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Tell a friend to tell a friend. Now, ladies, I have created something super special for you, which is my free ebook. It is 10 tips to personal development. I've also created something super special, which is a 30-day devotional. It's everything from affirmations to biblical verses and a message from me to you. So make sure you pick this up at www.prettygirlprogression.com today. And it's really for the betterment of your personal development and just overall self-growth and self-love. So definitely support the channel by picking that up. But all that housekeeping out the way, I have a very, 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 very special guest. Not only is this woman an international speaker, yes, international speaker, she is, to me, a personal growth coach. She is a social media influencer, an overall mother, and just a great human being. Y'all, give a big round of applause for Miss Cassandra More.
Thank you.
Cassandra, thank you for sitting down with me and chopping it up. You have so much going on right now. But first and foremost, how are you doing and how are you feeling today?
I am feeling fantastic. I always say it's a mindset thing. So I think as long as you put in your mind, like, you're feeling good, you look good, and you're going to be good. So I'm feeling really good today.
Yes.
Also, thank you so much for having me. I'm so honored to be on your podcast.
I'm so happy to have you. I know that the listeners are going to gain a lot of value from you. So for people who don't know you, how would you describe your influence, your social media presence? What would you call yourself?
I would genuinely just say that I am someone who is passionate about pushing forward, trusting in yourself, um, walking in faith. And so if you follow me or if you know me, you know I talk about all things think less, create more, trust in God, right? Because that's really what it all boils down to, right?
Yes.
And so I would just, introduce myself as a speaker, content creator, and a child of God.
Yes, amen.
Yeah.
So I also want to dive into your childhood because the childhood typically shapes who we are in our adulthood. So what was baby Cassandra like?
Baby Cassandra she was always a happy, um, helpful child, but at a very young age, I've always known that I wanted to be an entrepreneur. Yeah. I've always known that I wanted to work for myself, right? And so much so, and I was also really into sports. So I used to play sports. I used to play basketball specifically in the third grade. And after basketball, after basketball class, I would go across the street from my school to a grocery store so that I can bag groceries for tips. Now, mind you, I'm in the third grade, so I'm not even supposed to work. So I literally had to finesse and ask the owner, listen, you need me. You have no baggers. Let me help you, right?
Yeah.
And so he eventually said yes. My parents agreed, and I would come home with stacks of money. And I think at that moment I was like, I don't need no one to tell me, you know what I mean? Where to work, when to work. I can literally find a solution, solve it, and get paid for it. Yeah. And so young Cassandra always had that entrepreneurial mindset. And I was always a creative at heart. I would always look at a situation and think, what can I add to this? How can I make this more special? How can I make this more unique? And so even with relationships growing up, I would try to find different ways to add my personal touch on it, right? So whether it's adding humor if I notice that someone is down, giving them encouraging words if I see that they are going through things. And I kid you not, even as a child, like I would literally see some of my loved ones maybe going through a difficult time, and I would go to them, and I'm like, listen, God is with you. Like you don't have to be afraid. You don't have, and just like literally quoting scriptures. Um, I mean, I would go to church with my parents since I was very young, but I wasn't like reading my Bible, right? I just remember what I heard, and in those moments where I see what was needed, I would just go and provide that. Um, and I think that carried on to, as an adult now, in the creative space, as an entrepreneur, and even as a mother, right?
Yeah.
Just looking for opportunities to where I can provide value. I know what my gifts are, with encouragement, with being a creator, and really just wanting people to win. I can easily insert myself in a situation and just find those gaps where I can provide value.
So who influenced you to have this like entrepreneur spirit? Because I know you Haitian, just like I'm Haitian, and we
Yes,
just we have it
ma'am.
in our blood. But was there a
Yeah.
particular person who influenced you to be a hustler in the third grade?
That's such a good question. Um, because I was in the third grade, I was so young. I don't think I really seen anyone. I mean, my father was a taxi driver at that time, but I don't think it clicked for me to say that I've witnessed someone, in the entrepreneurial space that encouraged me to do it. Um, I would say, now that I think about it, I do feel that because my father was a taxi driver, and during that time, this was before Uber, okay?
Yeah, for sure. Because
This
my
was
grandma was a taxi
before
driver
Uber.
way before.
Yeah. So I think because he was able to kind of create his own schedule in a sense. So like I would see moments where he's like, no, I'm not going to work tonight, or no, I'm going to work tonight. And he would just come home with like wads of cash, and he would just have it like stashed away in like a special drawer that me and my sisters already knew, like that's daddy's money drawer. Like that's where the money's at. Um, and I think there was different moments where he was also a really big Heat fan. So if there was a game going on, he's like, "Yo, I'm not going to work. We're all going to the Heat game." So I think, right, 305. So I think almost like witnessing that, like the freedom to choose your schedule, the freedom to um, hang out with your family and not have to commit to a work schedule. I think that may have planted a seed in the
For
back of my mind.
sure. And
Yeah,
it's so much more appealing and attractive, like the freedom to be able to do whatever you want. So
listen.
so Cassandra, like, and it's so funny because my grandma was a taxi cab driver, and she would like
Your
sell,
grandmother?
yes,
Wow.
yes, for over a decade. And she would sell chips and sodas and everything out of her cart. And that's where I would see like that spirit of hustle. So I think that's so
Yeah.
funny that your dad did that. But transitioning into womanhood, right? So now you're a teenager. What was your first job? Did that entrepreneur spirit stick with you in your teens? What was that like?
So my very first job, when was my first job? Uh, my very first job was at Burger King. Um,
What?
yeah, I was still in high school, so my first 3 years, for anyone who's in Florida, I did my first 3 years at Turner Tech. And then my last year, I transitioned to North Miami, which was like my home school based off of where I lived. And the reason I transferred was because I initially went to Turner Tech because Turner Tech, you had to choose like a major almost, right? You had to select what school did you want to go into. Was it nursing? Was it finance? Was it business? Was it agriculture? And so being Haitian, right, we literally only have four choices to choose. You could be a
Don't say
doctor,
them.
a lawyer, a nurse, or an engineer. That's
Yep.
it, right?
Okay.
And so I'm like, okay, I'm going to be a nurse. I'm going to be a doctor. So I went to Turner Tech to study nursing. immediately I'm like, this is not for me. I I hate this, right?
Oof.
And I've never enjoyed the hospital, being at the hospital, having to go to the hospital. So it didn't make sense for me to become a nurse and not work in a hospital. So I'm like, no. The plan was to go through with all 4 years and just graduate. However, how Tech, how their function is, your senior year, you have to create like this capstone. So it's a very in depth like internship, and you have to put in the hours, just the whole nine. And if you don't complete this, you cannot participate in any senior activities.
Oof.
That was my ticket out. I said,
Because
I
Turner
need
Tech
to
is
go.
a trade school, no, a skilled trade kind
Yeah,
of school, ain't it? Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Right. And so um, during my high school time, I played sports. So I played volleyball and I played basketball. And so I transferred over to my home school, which was North Miami. And because Turner Tech was more of like a vocational school, I had all my credits basically completed when I got to North Miami. And so I had what they called OJT, right? So I literally had one class a day because all my classes were completed. And I was out of school by like 9 a.m. every day. So I had to find a job.
Girl.
So they had a program to where they would find you a job, right? Because they didn't want to just send you back home and do nothing. So
Uh-huh.
the exchange was you take your first class and then you go to work. So I worked at Burger King, which is right around the corner from the high school, and I was not in like I wasn't tapped into like my entrepreneurial side. It was very much like just work. And I think in that season for me, it was having a consistent income, right? And so, one, I was young, right? I'm still in high school, and most people don't really have a job at that time. And
Mm-mm.
so, people would come from the high school, they're like, Cass, you work here? And I'm like, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
girl, what you want, a number two? Right? So I was making my money, and so that was fine with me. So for a while, I was like literally hopping from job to job to job to job. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, Burger King, Sears, Best Buy, call centers, right? And I think what it was just like this spirit on the inside of me that was like, you don't belong here. Like, it pays the bills and the paycheck is consistent, but like your spirit is dying.
Yeah.
And I
Wow.
didn't understand that at that time. I just felt like I'm bored. Like, I'm beyond this position. Like, I think I've done all I could do here. Let me just move on. Um, and
Wow.
so, yeah, I was just literally going from job to job, thinking that when I find something new, I'm like, okay, this is it. This feels good. This is exciting. And then a couple of months later, I'm like, no, I feel the same
Yeah.
way. Like, this isn't it. Like, there has to be more. And
Yeah.
funny thing is, at literally almost all of the jobs I've worked at, because I started feeling this on the inside, I would always ask my coworkers, my managers, I'm like, what do you like doing outside of work? Like, what are your passions, right? And so we will go down this rabbit hole of just different things that they're passionate about. And what I realized is people don't like working jobs. They work jobs
Okay.
because they need to. And I understood that at a very young age. And I'm like, okay, I'm not crazy. Like, other people are just here to collect a check, but you have a passion. Um, and so in the back of my mind, I always knew like this is temporary.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna be working for someone, forever.
For sure. And I think
Yeah.
even out of that, like working a job and going to school, how hard was that?
For me, it really wasn't hard because, like I said, during that time I had one class, and that one class was an elective. So,
Easy.
yeah, I didn't really have homework. I barely participated in my senior class because I completed all of my credits from my previous high school. So they
Yeah.
just physically needed me present to be in the school during that time, but majority of it was me working and then coming back to the school for practice.
Insane. So when do you think that you actually found your purpose? Like it hit you like a ton of bricks, like this is what I'm meant to do. And because
Hmm.
you have, Cassandra has Think Less, Create More.
Yeah.
And we're going to definitely get into that. But when was that moment you found your purpose? And what did that feel or look like to you? What was
Uh,
happening around you where you're like, oh, this is it. This is what I'm supposed to do?
yeah. Oh, that's such a deep question. Oh, it's so layered. Okay.
Oh, it gets deep
When?
because it's
No,
so it's
yeah.
like we all go through it, whether you don't
Yeah.
know what your purpose is yet or child, you fasting and praying to figure it out. Like it gets
Yeah.
deep.
Yeah. Okay. So as far as purpose, I do believe that everyone's purpose change depending on what season you're in.
Mm.
Um, but for me, my moment when I discovered what I was called to do, um, this was in 2021, I want to say.
Okay.
Um, this was after I had this is after I had my first daughter. Um, and I think I was either pregnant with my second or she was like literally just born. But I was
Mm.
just in this space of like desperation. I'm like, yo, I've worked all these 9 to 5 jobs. They all sucked. I know I'm made for more, but I don't know what. And it kind of just felt like I was wasting my time because I'm like, if I knew what I needed to do, I would do it, but I don't. And so it's like this level of frustration of like, God, like, why am I here? Like, why did you create me? What do you want me to do? Who am I here to serve? So I really went down this path of like literally begging and pleading to God, like, yo, just tell me what do you have me here for? Like, what is my purpose? And I remember like sobbing on the floor. I mean, like dramatic.
Don't it be like
But
that?
listen, when you desperately need an answer, and you're just like,
Ooh.
I've tried everything. I've
Mm-hmm.
literally tried everything, and I cannot figure this out. Like, just
Yep.
tell me, right? And I remember as clear as day. He says, "Think less, create more." And so I'm like, okay. Um, and so immediately I'm like, what does that mean? Right. And so I'm thinking, okay, maybe this is a business idea. Maybe I need to start like a podcast or something with that name. Right. So now I'm going down this rabbit hole of like, what does this mean? And what can I create? And a few weeks go by and he says it again. He's like, think less, create more. I've given you ideas after ideas after ideas. And mind you, every job I went to, I've always had a pen behind my ear because when I'm at a job, I'm mentally tapped out, like I'm zoned out. And my mind is just thinking of like different creative things. So anything that pops up in my mind, I'm writing it down. Right. So I have journals upon journals of like just ideas. Um, Hoping one day I'll be brave enough to do at least one of them. Right. So they're just sitting in the corner somewhere. And so he reminds me, he's like, I've given you ideas after ideas after ideas, and you haven't executed on not one, but yet you continue to pray for me for the same thing. He's like, think less. Like, you're overthinking it. You have the ideas, and I need you to create more. Like, just do it. And so in that moment, I'm like, oh, like your purpose isn't something that is going to land on your lap. It's something that you actively have to pursue. And in the motion of action and doing something, that's when you identify, like, this is my pocket. Like this is what feels good. This is what I'm great at. I can see the impact. And so
Wow.
when I heard that, um, I was really just sitting with that for some time. And then he tells me, get an LLC for this.
Okay. The Lord
And
was
so I'm
direct.
like, yeah. He was literally like, get an LLC. And so at this point, I'm like, okay, bet. No questions. I got the LLC.
Wow.
Um, but what I did do, because I really felt this strong in my spirit, I'm like, I need to tell a few of my close friends about what is happening. Because you ever like been through a moment where you're like, okay, God is instructing me to do something and it sounds crazy. I gotta tell at least one or two people because I need a witness. You know what I'm saying? If
A
something pops
hundred
off, I need
percent.
someone to be able to be like, I remember when she said that.
A hundred
And so
percent.
right, right. And so I sent a text out to maybe like a group of like 3 or 5, like my sister, my best friend. And so I'm like, listen, I just have this feeling that God is telling me to get an LLC for Think Less Create More. I got the LLC last night. I don't know what it means, but I just have a feeling it's going to be big. And I just wanted to share this with a select few so that you can be a part of, what God is about to create. And so I was like, don't ask me what my business is about. Don't, because I don't know. I do not know. And so I got the LLC, and because I didn't know what the business was going to be about, what I did have was think less and create more. And so anytime I'm like going through my day and I get an idea, it's just like gentle reminder of, if I'm like doubting or like thinking of like, okay, what do I do? I'm like, no, think less and create more. Okay, let me
Yeah.
just do this. And in the motion of like doing, and in the motion of just like trusting, like, okay, I need to do this, things just started aligning. Like, that's how me and Ev met. You know,
Yes.
well,
Oh,
I've met her 2 years prior, but that's how we started the business. Was, and we can get into that later, but that's
oh
how
yeah,
we
we
started
got
the business.
so much to talk about, and there's so many
Yeah.
gems that y'all dropped. Listen, I hope y'all have y'all journals, because the downloads that you will receive with Cassandra is unbelievable. And I have a list of things that I do want to ask you, but you said that you sent a message to a few of your confidants, your best friends, your
Yeah.
sisters, things like that.
Yeah.
And I did the same thing with Pretty Girl Progression. And
Mm.
even hosting, I was like, I need you to change my name from just sis, big sis, whatever, to Sherelle, the number one host in Florida. Like, I need that to be your
Listen.
screensaver. I need that to be,
Yeah.
when I call, that's what pops up.
Yeah.
And at the time, like, they were like, haha, okay, like, whatever.
Yeah.
But then I started hosting, and then I really
Hmm.
started building PGP again. So I resonate with that so, so much. And
Yeah.
if you
And it's
guys,
so. Mhm,
no,
go
no,
ahead.
go ahead. Please
No,
go.
I'm saying it's so funny that you said that, because a few years ago, my sisters and I did the same thing. I was like, yo, I was listening to a podcast, and they were talking about like changing your name on like your phone. And it was just like a powerful thing, to where every time that name pops up, they would read it, they would have it in their mind, and it would just like continue this manifestation thing. And so I told my sisters, I'm like, yo, save me in your phone as millionaire Cassandra. And so I'm like, it's only a matter of time till the money catch up. But it's been,
Yes.
I think, maybe a year and a half or 2 years, and I feel like I'm literally getting close to that path.
Yes.
But it's so crazy that you said that.
Yeah. I wonder if we were watching the same podcast. I think it came from a podcast, or I was listening to some audio, but someone said it. And the moment it was
Yeah.
said, I was like, I could have been
Oh,
listening to them.
I
No,
think
for
I
sure.
got
I
it
don't know.
from this was, I want to say, probably this was back when B Simone had the podcast with her friend.
Boom. And I
And I
just said
think,
that. It was Know For Sure. Okay. So that's what we were
yeah.
listening to, the Know
And I
For
think
Sure
she had like
podcast.
Billionaire B on, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Isn't that wild?
Yeah.
And till this day, my friend, my sister, my brother, they still have the number one host in Florida. And
Yeah.
like, it's so beautiful. And you also oh my God, we could talk about so much. I've mentioned Ev on the show before,
Yeah.
but I want to ask you before we switch. What
Hmm.
does pretty girl progression mean to you? And I love asking this question just
Yeah.
to see what other people think.
Pretty Girl Progression, for me, really just means taking the initiative to continue on your journey. And what I mean by that is, we all have a choice, right? We all have a choice to continue forward and to push forward and to strive for what it is that we want and our dreams and our goals. Or we have a choice to stay stuck, stay stagnant, complain, and blame everyone else but us. Pretty Girl Progression is making that choice to say, despite what is happening in my life, I am choosing to move forward, and I'm doing so with grace. Um, and I think just that journey alone is Pretty Girl Progression.
Spot freaking on. I always say pretty girl progression, you have to make a choice.
Yeah.
No one's going to just continue to drag you along. You have to decide, I'm done with this. I really want to
Yeah.
change. I don't know what it's going to look like, but here I am showing up. And
There's
that is,
power in choice.
yes. And
There's
what does
power
God
in
give
just
us? Free
deciding.
will, right? We have
Yes.
choice. You can either
Yeah.
do or don't. You're both right.
100%.
Yeah. Oh my
They
gosh.
both lead
Okay.
down different paths, though. So just be
Mhm.
mindful that
Mhm.
your choices have consequences.
Oh, come on now. You also
Yep.
said something earlier about you feel that purpose changes. And I
Yeah.
was like, hold up. Can you explain? Because
hmm
I'm thinking this is my purpose and this is all I'm supposed to do. So what do you mean by purpose changes?
What I mean by purpose change is that we're all on a mission, right? Um, and I think they're all connected. Like the different seasons in your life and the different chapters in your life is all needed. But currently, where you are, there is something that you need to do. So, for example, there was before I discovered Think Less and Create More. Um, Back when I was sharing when I was younger, I used to pour into some of my loved ones when I noticed they were down or I noticed they were going through something. I would step in and give those words of encouragement. That was my purpose for that season, right? My purpose was to pour into them. I didn't really know, right, what and why, but I just felt like I need to do this, right? And so in that season, that is my purpose. Um, when I got pregnant, in that season, my purpose was to give birth to my daughter. My purpose was to love her and to raise her and to be, a mother. And funny thing is, when I got pregnant with my first daughter, um, I didn't want to do anything creative. The thought
Mm,
of creating made me want to throw up. Like I was
wow.
disgusted with creating and thinking about
Mm,
picking up my camera or my phone or even trying to turn on an app. And I think that was very, very intentional of God because I am such a yes or no person. I'm either 100% in or I'm like, get someone else to do it. And I know during that time and during that season, he needed my 100%,
yeah.
attention on being a mother. And so
Yeah.
he didn't need me to create during that time. He didn't need me to be on Instagram. He didn't need me to record no content. He's like, I need you in this moment to one, tap in with me. Because my birth was a natural birth. And if I didn't have the Lord himself, honey, to get me through that, like it was such
That's
a
my
beautiful
dream.
thing. But in that season, my purpose was to be devoted and to really be in a space to where I'm able to give birth to my daughter.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
now I'm in a season where I feel that my purpose is to encourage other people to, push past your fears and to think less and create more, whether it's in
Yes.
content or whether it's in life. So I
Yeah.
think it's really just getting in a position to where you're able to hear what your next move is.
For
Um,
sure.
and I think being in alignment. Listen, one thing about me, you're going to hear God, okay? You're going to hear
I was
God
going to
very
ask you,
often.
have you always had this like close relationship with God? And have you ever doubted God when he was telling you to do something?
Yeah, 100%. I don't think I was doubting God. I think I was more so doubting myself.
Mm,
Um, but I've always had a relationship with God. My relationship with God hasn't always been close. Because ever since I was young, I've always been in the church. Again, I'm Haitian, so we used to spend like all day there, right?
girl,
Um,
you
Maybe
ain't
like
been to church since you've been to a Haitian church, okay? 5 hours later type of church.
okay.
Whew.
And then we got to be there on Friday till midnight, and then you got Wednesday Bible study, and then Saturday choir practice. So I was in the church often, right?
Okay.
So I was raised in the church. So I've always, known about God, and my parents did a really good job of making sure that we pray, having us repeat after them for the Lord's Prayer. So I was always, aware of God and knew that I believed in Him. Um, it wasn't until actually at my very first job at Burger King is when I got saved.
What?
Yeah, and that's a crazy story. Yo, when I tell you
We
God
got we
is so
got some time. Please
intentional,
tell me. God is very
what
intentional. I always say this. So I would love to hear this.
God is so intentional, and I didn't really had plans on speaking about like when I got saved, but it just came to me, and I'm like, I need to talk about this. But yeah, it was crazy. So there was this gentleman that would come to, oh my gosh, it's so crazy. There was this guy that would come to the Burger King every Sunday. He wouldn't buy nothing. He wouldn't bother anyone. He would just come in. He'll say good evening. He'll ask for a cup of water. He'll get his water and he'll sit in the very same spot and read his Bible every single Sunday. He never missed a Sunday, right? And so I don't even know how long he's been coming, but I just started to get curious. I'm like, why is this man so committed to his Bible? And he's here every Sunday. And so one of my roles at Burger King, when we're slow, I would go around and like clean down the tables, make sure like the drink station is stocked. And so I'll make my rounds. And every time I would walk past him, we'll have like, little small talk and things like that. Nothing too serious. So he was never like forceful. He was never like, let me preach to you. Let me, you know what I'm saying? He was never that. And so there was this one random day I walked up to him as I'm like making my rounds. And I remember asking, I'm like, you know, how do you know Jesus is real? Right? And so we get into like this deep conversation and he's asking like, do you believe in Jesus? And have you accepted him as your Lord and Savior? And just the whole gospel, right? Just how the Lord came and died for your sins and all of this. And I just remember like this feeling came over my body, like chills, which I'm kind of having now. And I felt like this level of peace that I think subconsciously I was missing and looking in all the different places, right? And as he was just speaking to me, eventually he gets the question of like, do you want to accept Jesus as your savior? Like, do you want to dedicate your life and, live your life for the Lord? And I was like, yes. And so he's like, let me pray for you. And so he prayed for me. And then, he was like, congratulations. And, the Lord love you. And I remember just walking away feeling like, oh my gosh, like I love the Lord. But it was just, and then
Yes.
mind you, here's the crazy
Amen.
part. After that day, I've never seen him again. Like he never came back.
Wow. It's
He
almost
stopped
like he
coming
was sent there to
for
you to wait for
girl,
you, and then his job was
waiting,
done to now he's gone.
patiently waiting every Sunday.
Baby, if
And I
that's
was
not an
like,
example of what God does, when I tell
yeah,
you down to the T intentional,
mm-hmm,
that's amazing.
yeah. And then that just also like points back to like what I speak about now. It's like walking in obedience to what God is calling you to do, right? Because sometimes
Yeah.
we don't know why, we don't know why we're creating a business, why we want the
Right,
podcast.
right.
But when God's like, yo, do this, sometimes it's not even about you. It's like, yo, I need you in position for someone else, right? Um, and it's just having that mindset of like not questioning God, not being like, why me? I don't know how to do a podcast. I don't know how to run a business. But he's like, I got you. I'm gonna equip you, but I just need you to say yes. I need you to think less and create more of
Oh,
what I'm telling you to
Jesus.
do. Um, and so yeah, that was a crazy moment, but yeah, that
And I
happened.
love how you even shared that story. You're a great storyteller, by the way. You've been doing your
Thank
thug
you.
thizzle, okay? Oh my gosh. Okay, so now you have Think Less, Create More. You have your
Yes.
LLC. For the people who don't know, me and Cassandra met during a content creator event. You guys heard me mention content creators through this podcast, through my
Yeah.
previous podcast with my co-host, and they are a community of content creators who also help bring other content creators together. And I remember meeting you, and at some point we started talking about me hosting, right? And I was not
Hmm.
really hosting like that, but I was talking about my budget, like what my fee was. And I remember you telling me, do you remember like you were telling me to like up my price? And
Not probably. Yeah,
I
that
was
sounds
like,
about right.
up my price? And it's crazy because during a content creator event, I booked my highest paying gig from someone at the event. Like I could not believe it. So okay, so yes, so you are or were, I'm not sure, but let me know. Like you partnered up with content creators, but you also have Think Less, Create More.
Yeah.
How do you even bring your vision to life and that vision to life? How do you even collaborate the two? Because they're
Yeah.
really big visions on both ends.
Hmm. So when CCE started, this was shortly after TLCM started, right? So this was after God was like, get the LLC. And so I've met Ev 2 years prior to us starting that event. So we had a mutual friend, and she was celebrating her 30th birthday in a cabin in LJ, Georgia. And so she invited me, and that's where I met Ev. And so during this time, Ev still resided in Orlando. And so, top of, I think, 2022, Ev was moving and transitioning down to Miami. And so I was having a birthday dinner because I'm a Capricorn baby. Woo, woo.
Okay, my Capricorn moon is like, hey, girl.
Oh, really? I
Yes.
didn't know that.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
we were having brunch, and so I invited. So Ev was in town. So our mutual friend, she was invited to my brunch, and she's like, "Hey, Ev is in town. Do you mind if she come?" And I thought, for sure. And so at my brunch, Ev and I we get to talking, and she's like, "Hey, I'm moving down to Miami. I'm an event coordinator. I want to tap into like the people here in Miami. Do you, want to possibly collab on an event?" And so I'm like, for sure. In my mind, I'm like, she wants to host an event, and she just wants my help. So I'm
Yeah.
like, girl, I got you. Whatever you need, I'm here. And so, long and behold, it was more so she wanted me to host an event, and she just wanted to be the event coordinator of it. And I'm like, what? I did not agree to this, right? And so we just started brainstorming. I'm like, okay, having a passion for creators. I'm like, what if we just get creators in the room, and you know we just allow them to network, and we kind of just brainstorm and created what you know as the content creators party. And so that was just a night of us honoring. I think at that time it was about like 9 different entrepreneurs and creators, giving them their flowers. We gifted them awards. So it was like a mini award show kind of thing. And that in itself took faith, because that's a whole other story of itself. But that in itself took faith to walk that out. And so, being that CCE was new, and TLCM was still new, once we came together, because again, she was an event coordinator and I was now operating under TLCM, the collaboration was just, TLCM and um, Evelyn's event coordination kind of coming together, creating this business. This wasn't a thing. It was just one event, right? But after that first event, and after all of the reviews and excitement, and people are like, yo, we need this in South Florida.
Yeah.
This has to be a thing. At that moment, we're like, oh, we have something here. And so we had to go on the back end and kind of create, like, okay, what does this look like? What do they need? And so we then started having like the monthly mixers, and we talked about possibly bringing back another year of the award ceremony. So as time progressed, we was like, okay, this is an entity of its own. Like, we need to create a name for this. And so that's kind of how CCE was birthed from both um, both of our separate businesses. Um,
Yeah.
and so because it was new, like it was a baby, so we literally had to like invest a lot in the beginning, because it's new, and so we needed
Yeah.
to kind of put this on the map. We had to put CCE on the map, and so I wasn't actively involved in TLC, and my main focus was pushing CCE forward and making sure that the community knew, who we were and what we were doing. And then once we kind of got a rhythm of having CCE, then we would kind of branch out and may have like a TLCM event or a
Yeah.
Mother's Day event hosted by Ev, and then kind of try to balance the both.
That has to be so hard to balance two things, like I could.
Yeah, it gets tricky.
Yeah, for sure. But I do feel the impact that you guys have made. I've been to plenty of CCE events and
Yeah,
having you there. And I honor both of y'all because it is not easy putting on an event, from raising the money to people showing up to people not showing up to,
the marketing.
everything goes into it.
Yeah,
So y'all support your people, okay? Because without these communities, trust me, your child would probably be lost in the sauce.
right.
So these events are super, super powerful. Recently, I saw you at Mariana's event, her like woman's brunch, and you had your beautiful babies there. Okay, you are
Yes.
a mother, and you were a speaker at her second annual woman's brunch. First of all, you being there gave so much life and a breath of fresh air within the room itself.
Oh, thank
But
you.
seeing your babies in the room watching you, like, what is that like? What do you think that your baby girls are like witnessing? Or do you guys ever have talks about like this is what mommy's about to go do? Walk us like that, and what advice would you give to women balancing motherhood and following their dreams being a boss babe?
Yeah. So when I first started, like fully stepping into being an entrepreneur, I was 3 months out from having my second daughter. Um, Prior to that, when I had my first daughter, I was still actively filming YouTube videos. I was still creating content. So she was able to witness that side. Um, Fully stepping into entrepreneurship is a different light. And so when I first started, like I said, my second daughter was only 3 months. My first was possibly like 2 years, um, and I had a lot of support during that time because they weren't old enough to come along with me. So I had my sisters, my mother, my grandmother. They was always available to help out and watch. My girls when I went out and I had to handle what I needed to do. Now they're a little bit older. My oldest just turned 5. My youngest is 2, but she's literally like 4. You
I wouldn't
know,
have thought the little one was too. Wow.
she's only 2. I mean, because she shadows her older sister.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she's really like she's a boss,
Yeah, she
but
is.
they're a little bit older now. And funny enough, my entire support system has crashed. Right. And I just feel
Oh.
like, again, this is another very intentional season that the Lord has placed me in because in the time where I had the support, I needed it. Right. I needed the support to kind of get the ball rolling, kind of get myself out there. But I think now because I I'm at a good stride and I know what I'm doing now. I don't necessarily need the support, and I may have been using it as a crutch, right? And so he literally started stripping away my support system. I mean, my sister moved to she moved to Denver. Then my other sister moves to Dallas, right? My grandparents get sick. It was just like domino effect after domino effect, and it really just put me in a position to where it's like I have to do everything and manage everything on my own, right? And that was new for me because if I needed to run, hey, can you watch my kids? I got you. Drop them off,
Yeah.
right? But I was now in a season where it's like they got to come with you or you're not going.
Right.
And um, luckily for me, I was able to bring my oldest daughter to a previous event. So, and during this time, she was 2, and she was fine, but she was hyper. She was jumping all around. I'm like, and again, the way my mind operates, I am like fully on or I'm off. And so it was difficult for me to like be in the room and handle my business at the same time of being a mother because I was always like, are you good? Do you want snacks? Do you need to use the bathroom? Do you guys need me? I'm coming. So it was so
Yeah.
difficult to kind of balance both. And so after that first experience, I'm like, I don't know if I can do this again. But then when Mariana invited me, my sitter canceled. And so I'm like, I may not be able to go to this. Um, but then again, the Lord was like, no, you need to be in the room. And I'm like, okay, we're going to make this happen. So I was like, girls, we are going. I'm like, this is what we're doing today. Put on your clothes. We got them dressed. And I was there was some level of hesitancy. I was like, I don't know how this is going to go. Um, but one thing that I've been super intentional about is teaching my kids everything I wish I knew at their age, and
Yeah.
everything that I'm learning now. And one of the biggest things for me is teaching them confidence, knowing that it's okay to speak up and not always having to be shy, right? Because as kids, we may come up as shy, um, but I'm like, I have to correct it now, right? So even when they're asking for something, and kids are typically like, mommy, can I? I'm like, put your head up, look me in my eye,
Speak
and
with your
say it
chest,
again.
baby.
Yes, say it with your chest. Like you don't have to be timid. Like if you need something, just ask for it. And so I've been
Yeah.
super intentional with that. Um, and so taking them, I'm like, I just need you guys to behave. If you need something, just come to me. And they did amazing. They did
They
amazing.
did.
And
And you
what
were
I
in a room full
loved,
of moms. So it was
yeah,
perfect. It's like, you hear anything in the background, it's like, it's just some kids. And you moms have a level of like tuning out certain noises from
yeah,
kids where it's like beyond
a
me.
100%, 100%. But what I loved is it was just a level of like community. Like the second I walked
Yes.
in, they was like, Mariana was like, hey, I actually have kids right around the same age as your daughters. We have some toys if you want to set them over here. We went over there. Her sister came over. She was like, I got them. Don't worry. Her mother came over. She was like, listen,
Yes.
whatever they need. I'm like, oh my,
A whole village,
a
right?
whole village. And
And to
it's
think,
like the little things
yeah.
that mean so much. But yeah, it was awesome just allowing them to kind of step into my world. And my
Yes.
oldest daughter is, I can see that she's taken up after me, in kind of wanting to like speak up and have a voice and have a presence. Because as I mentioned earlier, she just celebrated her fifth birthday, and
Yes.
while I was in
Blessings.
her school, her teacher told me that because she's graduating pre-K going to kindergarten, so her graduation's coming up. I know.
They grow up so fast.
And her teacher was telling me that they have poems that they wanted one of the kids to recite, but everyone was like, "No, I'm not doing it." But Ilani, she was like, "I'll do it." And
Come on
typically they
now.
would send her. I literally, when she told me that, I almost broke down in tears. Um, and typically they would send them home with the poem so that they can practice with their parents. But she learned it in school already. Like she picked it up, she knows it, and she's been rehearsing it ever since. And she's like, "Oh
Boss
no, I'm ready."
baby.
And I'm
Yeah.
like,
That's a boss baby right there.
so
Yeah.
even that, like, I'm really intentional of making sure like she comes with me. She sees me speaking. She sees me, networking and engaging with people, so that in her mind it's like it's not something I have to be afraid of. It's not something that's taboo. Like I can, pick up a microphone and speak. I can introduce myself to someone. So I just want
Absolutely.
it to be something that is normal for them, and that's something that they shy away from.
Well, it's about to be super, super normal. It's about to get realer than real because I have seen your progression and it has been incredible. You are a full on like social media content creator. You're
Yeah.
traveling. I recently just saw you in Jamaica, like
Yes.
speaking. So let's dive into like how did you start to really grow your social media and really make money off of it and brand yourself and what
Mhm.
was that experience like?
Yeah, so with social media, that kind of just took off in and of itself. And so, really, how that started, I used to do like these little tutorials, right? The ones I do now, but I used to do them like back in the day. And when I did I think it was like maybe my first one, I kind of put it out, and it only receives maybe a couple of comments, a few shares, and so I'm like, let me just take this down because this is not what people really want, right? But it's something that I'm naturally gifted in. You know what I mean? The same way as I shared earlier that I'm able to kind of come into a situation, kind of see what's missing and add my uniqueness to it is the same way I do with my Instagram stories. I would post a
Mm-hmm.
picture and I'm like, something's missing. Let me add this, add that, and kind of just create like this really cool, post. And
Yes.
so in doing that for myself, I've had a few people ask like, "Oh, how'd you do that?" Which is why I started my tutorials. But when I
Which are
posted that first
phenomenal.
one,
They're
thank you.
phenomenal. Like y'all don't understand. Okay, so all I keep hearing in my head is upgrade, 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 upgrade,
Yeah,
upgrade. You've literally taken, a basic post a picture on your story and turned it into like this Canva beautiful
yeah,
artwork with rain and this and that. And I've personally purchased one of your packages and you've made it very simple. It just takes a lot of execution,
yeah,
consistency, which I love. The one you did with Summer Walker, incredible. So
yeah.
go ahead. I'm a big fan.
Thank you. So yeah, so because the first one didn't get a lot of traction, I'm like, okay, maybe this is not what the people want. Let me just take this down. And so that first post was possibly around like February, January. And so I just went back to creating like regular content, other things. And I just felt like, no, you need to get back to this. So it
Mm-hmm.
really wasn't until like September, right? So think January from September, just being disobedient all the way through.
You said it with such disgust, being disobedient. Ugh.
Because I'm on the other side and I knew what was attached to me being obedient, it is
Mm-hmm.
disgust. It's like,
Mm.
girl, you just had to listen. But
Mm-hmm.
so when I did it in September, my main focus was like, okay, it doesn't matter what the stats are, just continue doing this. Like, this is what you need to
Yes.
do. So I did
Yes.
4. On the 4th one, that was the one I partnered with Sean. You know Sean.
Glassford. Shout out to
Yes.
Glassford. Hey,
Yes.
that one went crazy.
That one
Over
went
like 1 million.
crazy. No, it got like in a week we were over like 6 million. And so that was the post that really took things to the next level.
How did
Um,
that collaboration happen? And again, collaboration is the theme right now. It's all about this
yeah,
collaboration. How did that happen?
that came from me just posting, me getting back into the groove and just kind of posting my tutorials. And
Mm-hmm.
I shared something in my stories. I'm like, hey, send me a picture if you want me to use your photo, for a post,
Yeah.
And so he sent me a photo, and I was like, all right, bet I got you. And so I cooked something up really quick, and I'm like, are you open to doing a collab like on our page? And he's like, for sure. And so I shared it. He thought it was fire. And so we did a collab. No expectations, right? It was just like, I'm gonna take your picture, right, and I'm just gonna create something and I'm gonna share it as just another tutorial. Again, in a week we had over like 6 million.
Baby broke the
six
internet.
lit. I was in shock, and I was
When
like,
I First of all, I personally know Glassford, and
yeah,
he's always willing to help and
he
always
is,
encouraging, but to collaborate on the page, I've never really seen that from Glassford. Like, okay, let's
yeah,
collaborate. I've never really seen that. So when I actually saw it, it was a picture of him like in Paris,
right,
and you had flames, and it just looked 3D and incredible.
yeah.
Incredible.
I
So
was
from there, what do you
literally
do?
on my front on my front porch. I think I was going to an event, and so I was like, "Yo, I need to create this," because I told him I'm gonna get it done in like X amount of time. So I'm like, "Let me hurry up and just put something together." So not that it was rushed, but it wasn't something that I really sat down and I was like, "Okay, right." I was just letting my
Natural.
creativity do what it does.
Think less,
And so I
create more.
posted it. Literally, think less, create more. So I posted it, and I think I went to the event, came back, and I was like, "Oh, these numbers are really good. Like this is really picking up." Um, and then as the days went by, he's in my DM. He was like, "Yo, this is going crazy," and I'm like, "Yo, we might hit 1 million by tomorrow." He was like, "No, we're definitely hitting 1 million." And we literally watched as the numbers continue to grow and grow and
Yeah.
grow, and my followers as well started to grow. People then started to comment like, can you teach me, is there a class? And so really from that moment it was just a matter of me listening to what the people wanted and creating it, because I didn't have anything available. I didn't have a course, I didn't have an expectation, I didn't consider myself a coach at that moment, right? I was just creating what felt good to me. But in that post going viral and my page now growing tremendously overnight, I'm like, okay, people want a course. People want help. People need help.
For sure.
And so I then had to kind of step in and create what the people wanted. And I think that's what social media is really about. Both combining your uniqueness, your story, your authenticity with you solving a problem, right? And so, in solving that problem, when you combine them, it's not so much of just you being here to sell, 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 but you're showing up as yourself, you know, answering the question to this problem. I think that's
Yeah.
the beauty in how you kind of build a brand online and
Yeah.
start to sell. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So it's just about listening.
Absolutely.
Like, what is your audience asking you for?
Yeah.
And creating that and then positioning that to them.
Yes. I love how you mentioned that you are listening to your audience. And I think there's also a fine line, and I kind of want your opinion on this because you can listen to your audience, but how do you listen to them without it really stifling your creativity.
Mm-hmm.
Have you had to deal with that?
Yeah. I think it really boils down to you knowing what it is that you naturally enjoy doing, right? If it's nothing that's like far to the left of what you would do, like for example, for myself, when it came to like these tutorials, um, some of the questions people were just asking is like, how do I add the effects? Can you do something catered to a chef? Can you probably show me how to do something if I have, a t-shirt business? That's not too far left from what I already do, right? I naturally just create creative post. And so them asking me to show them how to do that, cater to their business, I have no issues doing that because that's naturally what I do anyways.
Yeah.
Now, if it's something where they're like, oh, you should probably, you know, create flyers for, events because you're so good at graphics, absolutely not. I am not a graphic designer. I am not creating your flyer. And I've gotten a lot of requests for that. And it's not that I don't, I don't, I don't want to do it, but I don't want to do it. I'm not a
Yeah.
graphic designer, so I just politely say like, list, that's not one of the services I provide. I don't
Yeah.
create flyers because a lot of the times people see like the moving pictures and things like that. They're like, oh, this could be a dope flyer.
For
I don't do
sure.
flyers.
For sure.
I don't do
You
flyers.
you've definitely okay, so I loved how you answered that. Now, woo, so you have had so many different celebrities, and y'all, celebrities are just people too, okay? They bleed just like
Yeah.
us, but it's something different when you have Michelle Williams in your DMs encouraging
Yes.
you, or Summer Walker like reposting, or and I'm sure you've worked with so many others. Like, what is that feeling like? What is that? It almost makes it feel like it was all worth it, like you're being seen.
Yeah, I think it was just first of all when Michelle Williams,
Girl.
listen, I was like, Michelle,
Michelle.
what?
Okay, the Michelle
Um,
Williams with
the
Destiny Child who
Destiny
knows
Child.
Beyonce. Come on now.
I mean, and let's not forget Kelly.
Come
Okay, Kelly's
Kelly?
that girl.
Kelly is that girl. Kelly is in her season, baby. I am loving Kelly.
Absolutely.
Loving her.
I mean, so when because I did a post on her, and I think I tagged her in it and I shared it to her and she commented back and she messaged back on DM and she was just like, "Oh my gosh, this is beautiful." And and I'm like, she responded.
Yeah, girl.
What? And I think for me it was just a matter of like confirmation of like this is your gift. Like this
Yes.
is what you do, you know.
Yes.
And I think when other greats can recognize that in you and say like, yo, what you're doing is phenomenal. I think
Yeah.
that just adds like another, not that you need validation from people, but I do feel that in those seasons of like you doubting yourself, sometimes just kind of hearing that from someone else who is
Yes.
a pure expert and a goddess in her field alone
Yes.
to shed light that say like, yo, what you're doing is dope. For me, it was just confirmation of like, okay, I'm in my pocket. Like
Absolutely.
this is what I do. And so I need to
Absolutely.
tap into this and I need to like fully commit to this. Um, but
You
I
locked
was just
in.
blown away. I was
You
blown
really
away.
locked in.
Not that she just liked it and was like thumbs up, but she took the time to send a voice note to say like, yo, this is dope. You're amazing.
Personalized it.
Yeah. And I was
For
like,
sure.
Michelle, girl, call me.
Yeah.
We
So
could, we could work something.
okay, period. And I don't want to keep you too long because I know you have to run to the airport to grab your sister. But for the people who are really working hard at building like their content and being paid, I've even asked you like, look, I'm in this season. I really want to call in paid brand partnerships. So what was it like you even having paid partnerships, or even if you're just collaborating and it's not monetary at all? How
hmm
does one even, do you have a few tips to just put yourself out there and what you really need to focus on to get noticed by brands?
Yeah. The biggest thing I would say is one, you have to know what brands you want to work with. I think a lot of the time people are just generally saying, I want to get a brand and I want to work with big people. But then it's like, what brand do you want to work with?
Right.
Right? Because once you identify the
Taking
brand,
notes.
yeah, once you identify the brand, you can now do your research to look through their page, right? Because if they're going to collaborate with you, more than likely they've collaborated with someone else. So what does that work look like? And it's then just creating your version of what they've already, like what they have on their page, right? So if you want to get a brand with, let's say, Target, right? Go through Target's page and see what do their collaborations look like. What have some of the content creators already created? Do you have anything that resembles that on your page? If you don't, they're not going to work with you because they want to see, can you create something similar that is worth being shared on my page? And so my advice would be, create what you want to get paid for. So
Create what you want to get paid for.
if it's not a paid deal in the beginning, if you shop at Target, create that brand partnership, create the content as if it's a paid brand and get your audience familiar with, hey, I'm going to Target. I'm about to, grab X, Y, and Z. Come with me, whatever, right? Create that content as if you're getting paid. And as you post them, tag them in it. Tag them in
Yes.
every single one, right? Just to kind of plant that seed. And then once you kind of have the content on your page that resembles the brand you want to work with, jump in their DM. Introduce yourself like, hey, my name is so and so. I love, your brand, or I love this product. Can you send me the email to someone who is in charge of partnerships? I would love to speak to them about X, Y, and Z. Right?
Okay.
Just a simple DM. Majority of the time, they have people dedicated to their DM, so they may be like, yes, here's an email, reach out. Right? But it's really just a matter of just trying. Right?
Yes.
Make a list of 10, make a list of different brands and reach out to at least 10 a day. One of them
Yes.
eventually has to say yes. But you want to be sure when they do say yes, you're ready. And you have
Yes.
content on your page that shows that you are able to accept the partnership because you've done work before, you know?
Yes. For me, I'm definitely calling in travel and I'm calling in cigar brands because I love cigars and my hats. Like, people talk about, oh, you should do beauty. I don't want to sit on the internet taking my makeup off and putting it on because I do my makeup how I do my makeup, not
Yeah,
like anyone else. And I don't care about the different colors and shades and what
for
it does
sure.
and da da
It's
da.
not what you're
Stay in
into.
your lane.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I love that. I absolutely love that. Do you ever do like social media auditing where someone's like, okay, this is my page. What can I do to spice it up a little? Have you
Yeah,
been able to do
I
anything
do.
like that? Yeah?
I do have social media audits, and I do have like one-on-one calls. Um, I limit them. I limit my one-on-ones, but I do have one-on-ones where we kind of just walk through your social media. We talk through how you can position yourself better. We get clear on what are your content pillars, what is the messaging you want to really share on your platform, and what are some things you can do to really position yourself to kind of make sure that your branding is hitting that mission statement that you want people to feel when they come to your
Yeah.
page. So
And should someone be posting like every single day? Like for my PGP, I just have certain days that I post, and I
mhm.
always post like 2 clips of my videos until the next one. So, what do you recommend? Do you recommend someone every single day posting no matter what, or or going live no matter what? What do you recommend?
I recommend consistency.
Okay.
So commit to a schedule that you can actually commit to, right?
Okay.
Because yes, I hear people saying post 7 times a day, twice a day, one in
It's
the
like
morning.
who?
Like,
I
you can
can't.
possibly do that in the beginning because you're excited in the momentum, but then by week 2 you're posting like maybe once in the entire week, right? So I
Mm-hmm.
think it's just a matter of committing to something that you can actually remain consistent with, right? So if for
Absolutely.
you it may be 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. If you can really commit to that, then commit to that and make sure you
Yes.
don't miss a day, because now your audience is going to pick up on, okay, Sherelle posts every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So when Monday roll around, I can almost guarantee I'm gonna see her post on my page because it's a
Absolutely.
level of consistency, right? And you kind of just start to build this level of trust with your audience, opposed to feeling like you have to tap into every platform and post every day. And you post 1 week and you go ghost for 3 weeks. And you come back like, hey, it's me again. And they're like, wait, what? You know what I
Baby.
mean? But if you keep that 3 day a week pace that you feel comfortable with and you can continuously do that, you're now 6 months in and they've been rocking with you at 3 days a week.
I
Right?
absolutely
And so that's
agree.
how you kind of build your stride.
Absolutely. I noticed the difference between No Shade, my last podcast, and this podcast. Like I said, Mondays and Tuesdays, I'm always going to post. It's always going to be a video coming. Well, now it's Mondays and Wednesdays, but I'm always going to do it. And before, it was kind of all over the place. And it
Yeah.
cannot be like that because your audience will literally like go find something else to do. They could be anywhere, listening to anything, doing anything. So you really got to continue the consistency. It beats every time, you know?
Yeah. You
So,
just find what
Cassandra,
works for you.
for sure. What's a motto that you live by?
You know what it is, girl. Think
Think
less,
less,
create
create
more.
more.
And I'm not just saying that, like, I literally live by this motto because I'm an overthinker, right? I get in my head a lot. And in addition to me getting in my head, we also have to keep in mind that the enemy is after our minds,
Okay,
right? Because he can't physically touch you, but he is going to try to manipulate and get into your, get in here, right? We know
for
his goal
sure.
is to kill, steal, and destroy. And
Yep.
so he is going to plant the seed to make you doubt, to make you second guess yourself, to make you feel that you're not worthy, anything to keep you from not moving forward, right? Because if God is calling you to do something, we already know like there's a reason for that, right? And He don't want you to do what God told you to do. So He's
Right?
gonna plant those seeds like, don't do it. You're not good enough. Nobody wants you speaking in Jamaica. You're not an international speaker. You can't host a podcast.
Lies.
Your first one failed. No one wants to hear from you, right? Plant
Right.
all those seeds, right? And you can easily fall into it to be like, ah, you're right, right? Now we're
Mm-mm.
in a season of
Right.
like depression and we're not moving forward and he's winning. And so in those moments I have to like always like remember like no 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 no. Don't rely on your own understanding. Like remember what the Lord told you. You are fearfully and wonderfully made. He is always
Yes.
with you. Do not fear. Continue to push forward. And even in those moments where I'm weak, I'm just like, yo, God, I am tripping right now. Like I
Yeah.
want to move forward, but this fear is knocking at my door and I don't feel like I'm ready. I don't know if I can do this. Like, help me.
Yeah.
So it's just like that constant reminder of like, no, 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 you need to push forward. You need to continue. And in those moments when I do, girl, when
Mm-hmm.
I actually
The
get in
glory.
position, ooh, when I
It
get
be
in
wild.
position to do what I almost forfeited, to do what I literally almost walked away from, just to sit home and do nothing. When I get in position just to see and witness what God does, bro. Like, I think I was sharing with someone else when I got invited to Jamaica. I was excited. I'm like, this is my opportunity to be an international speaker. But the week before I was going, the enemy was at work. He's
Okay.
like, what are you going to speak about? No one wants to hear that. Just all the things. Um, and I'm like,
Lies.
no, you're right. I can't go to Jamaica. I cannot. Right. So I'm now trying to figure out like, how do I get out of this? How do I get out? And so again, in those moments I had to pray and God was like, no, 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 no. You need to go to Jamaica. Like this is a
Yeah.
life changing moment for you. You need to be in Jamaica. And
And
so even
was.
coming from that trip and just being on the stage, having people like, yo, what you said spoke directly to me. And because of you, this is how I'm gonna show up online more. This is how I can, confidently move forward and share my story. Thank you for what you said. I feel like this is a breakthrough for me. And I'm like,
Yes.
had I not moved forward, I cannot touch the people who are connected to me, right?
Right.
And so it's just this constant reminder like the enemy is at work. The enemy is at work. So in those moments, just think less,
And
and
create
just create
more.
more. Continue forward and do what you know you need to do.
Baby, she said
Yeah.
everything that needed to be said. I hope you guys were listening, taking notes, and I want you guys to really play this back over and over because it really spoke life into me. You've helped me so many times, and I thank you for that. And y'all put it in the comment section. Where can the people find you, support you, and all the things? We'll put it in the description.
Yeah, you can follow me on Instagram at I am Cassandra More. Follow me on YouTube. I am going to be sharing more on YouTube. I've took a hiatus from YouTube, but I'm coming back. I have a lot of content that I want to share. And on YouTube, it is Think Less, Create More TV. Um, yeah, those are the only two platforms I'm really focused on right now.
And if we missed anything, again, we'll put it in the description below.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Y'all give a round of applause once more for Cassandra Moore.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. You are welcome back anytime. I mean, anytime. And for you ladies out there, again, anything you want to know about Cassandra, slide in her DM or just put it in the comment section. And also, don't forget to pick up your free ebook and your daily devotional, okay? And on that note, just love yourself, okay, y'all?